Namaskar and welcome to Sansad Television. I am Vishal Dahiya and you're watching our show Perspective, where we bring you detailed analysis of key national and international issues. Today we're going to talk about the new VPN rules. Now, the digital technology and usage of internet has grown exponentially in the world and is an integral part of the modern life as well. All devices connected to the internet are a part of a large network of computers, servers and other devices spread across the world. A virtual private network, or VPN, when switched on, essentially creates a safe network within the larger global network of the internet and masks the IP address of the user by rerouting the data. Now, new norms released by Computer Emergency Response Team, or CERT-IN, on April 28 have asked VPN service providers, along with data centers and cloud service providers, to store information such as names, email IDs, contact numbers, and IP addresses of their customers for a period of 5 years. Entities are also required to report cybersecurity incidents to CERT-IN within 6 hours of becoming or being made aware of them. These new rules will become effective from 27 June this year, that is 2 months after they were put in public domain. CERT-IN has said that it may seek information from service providers in case of cybersecurity incidents on case-to-case basis for discharge of its statutory obligations to enhance cybersecurity in the country. To further understand these new rules, their impact and their significance, we have with us a distinguished panel of experts today. Let me first introduce them to you. Beginning with, we are joined by Mr. Karmesh Gupta. He is the co-founder and CEO of Y Jungle. We also have with us Mr. Manoj, Dhanda, founder and CTO of MicroHost. And Ms. Khusboo Jain is also joining us, an advocate with a specialization in cyber law. Welcome all of you to Sansad Television. I'd first like to begin with the gentlemen from the industry here, Mr. Dhanda and Mr. Gupta, both of you as well, one by one. Let's first start by understanding few things, few concepts here, before we try and understand these new rules, their significance and their impact. I've spoken a bit about what VPN is, but it would be great if both of you can, make our viewers understand a little bit in detail about how does it work, the advantages and the disadvantages as well. Let's begin with you, Mr. Dhanda.
Yeah, so the VPN biggest USP is, the mask your IP address and secure your data, secure your user ID and password when you enter to the browser from the middlewares. For example, the ISPs, for example, the servers who manage your servers. So whenever you log into your bank website, so if you are using a VPN server, you can freely put your user ID and password. You are make sure that will be not able to see to any of the ISPs or any service provider, because that is go from an encrypt tunnel of the SSL VPN. Mm-hmm. This is what VPN do. VPN make you safe from the external attacks. Yeah.
Okay. So in more simpler terms, if we have to understand that, it basically, if I'm using a VPN, it will disguise my identity in terms of my IP address as well, and will not let the websites track my activity. Is that right, Mr. Gupta?
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. So as Mr. Dhanda mentioned, so there are two basic purposes of VPN, which people, or I would say the general internet subscriber, use it for. One is to basically maintain the anonymity, or if I have to say, is to hide your online identity. That is your IP address. That is the packets which you are sending to the end source. Along with your time zone, location, your ISP name, everything. Second thing for which the general internet subscriber utilizes VPN for is to access the restricted content within the network. There are different networks where are different security layers being created, and you have access to a certain sort of content only. For example, if an academic institute will not allow you maybe to use the YouTube or maybe Netflix or Amazon Prime in their campus, so that's the place from where the students will try to actually use the VPN to access that unrestricted or restricted content.
Okay, but isn't this a double-edged sword as well, if you look at it that way from the cybersecurity angle, because all these advantages can be misused by cyber criminals or hackers as well, and then it becomes a huge cybersecurity threat.
Absolutely, and that's the place where CERT-IN has brought this directions on April 28, because if you see the number of VPN users in 2020, they were somewhere around 45 million. If you see the number of users in 2022, they have increased by somewhere around 650%. And that is also adding up to the number of cyber crimes. So cyber criminals under the roof of, or I would say under the umbrella of VPNs, are constantly increasing the attacks, and it becomes difficult if somebody is not maintaining the logs to backtrack them and identify the real victim.
Okay.
Or real culprit, I would say.
Okay. Mr. Dhanda, do you agree with that aspect that yes, there are advantages, but there are disadvantages as well, and those are very serious ones?
100%. If you see the latest trend, all the UPI frauds happening from the VPN only. All the attackers use the VPN addresses to hide their identity, and then they use their UPI addresses and hit the bank accounts, and no one able to track that.
Okay. Okay. Khusboo,
Yeah.
I'd like to bring you in here. Let's now talk about, the rules which are being put in place slowly, one by one, step by step. And before we move on to the new VPN rules, let's also distinguish and try and understand the difference here between the IT rules which were brought in, earlier in 2021, and these new guidelines or directions for VPN service providers or cloud service operators or data centers as well, which have been just put in public domain and will be effective from 27 June. So what's the difference here?
To start with, let me give some basis that there exist multi-layered virtual private network services run by cyber criminals. And as earlier said by both the co-panelists, that to enable cyber criminals, they mask their identities online. They allow them to anonymously communicate, identify victims, and then effectively sneak in and conduct preliminary survey on their systems as a precursor to launching a cyber attack. Now, using these VPN services, the perpetrators or the criminals can remain anonymous while facilitating large-scale cybercrime operations. Now, VPN services are useful to hide location, identity of a ransomware gang, phishing scammers, and so on and so forth. They also claim to provide high level of anonymity via single, double, and triple, and sometimes quadruple VPN connections to its client servers. There are existence of such VPN services. Now, what happens is, whenever these crimes happen, it was more of a roadblock for law enforcement agencies or for taking care of security of the nation, because a lot of attacks are happening, a lot of ransomware attacks are happening, whereas your critical infrastructure is concerned. Not just India, but countries across globe are facing that. There are ransomware attacks or there are cyber attacks using VPN services on the critical infrastructure services of those countries. So countries did realize that, and looking at looking at the aspect that roadblock created via these VPN services, that it became more of a safe haven for these cyber criminals to use VPN services and attack countries or attack users. So looking at that, certain issued guidelines saying that, okay, VPN services, if you want to exist in India, you have to comply with norms. The norm says that keep logs for minimum of at least 6 years, and whenever, if there is a direction, in case there is a cyber incident, whenever the agency or the certain requires, is the time you have to furnish us details of those people. And that's specifically for any kind of cyber incident that happens. Now, whereas IT, okay.
No, you're right. I was about to ask you that question again as well. What's the difference between the IT rules which came in 2021 and these new rules which have come in for specifically, VPN service providers or cloud service providers or data centers as well?
I think the IT rules which you're talking about is the social media.
Yes, intermediary. Yes.
Okay. So intermediary rules were basically for Section 79 of IT Act specifically gave safe harbor protection to intermediaries who are just a platforms where user and the other people who watch, they are just a medium. They don't have any interference. So because they were platform, they were given an immunity, a safe harbor protection under Section 79 of IT Act, saying that because you're a platform, you will not be treated as you will be given immunity. You will not be, there are certain protection given to you.
Okay.
But because when earlier safe harbor protection came in existence, today's scenario, these platforms became more of active participants. They're no more intermediary. They stopped, using this safe harbor protection. They stopped sharing details. They stopped sharing, cooperating with the law enforcement agencies. They don't have any base in India. And because whenever the law enforcement used to go, They used to find that there is no nodal officer in India. They don't have any data centers in India, or they don't have anybody existing in India for law enforcement to practically speak. And whenever the mails used to go, they used to say, we do not understand your laws. These are not the laws recognized by us. So looking at all these scenarios and the way rampant usage or the way social media or these intermediaries became part and parcel of every citizen in the country, and the way misuse started happening or criminal activity started happening over these platforms, it became very imperative for government to intervene and say that, yes, you will be provided safe harbor protection under Section 79, provided you comply with certain rules. And those rules were the intermediary rules of 2021.
Okay.
They specifically said that you need to have a officer in India, a grievance cell 24/7. You have to comply with these norms. You have to share details with us within specific time period. If those crimes involved punishment more than 5 years, you have to recognize those crimes. You have to understand the laws. If you comply with all those things, yes, you're still given the safe harbor protection. If you're not, then you're as good as any other entity, and you will not be given those safe harbor protection. Now, coming to your new guidelines, the certain guidelines are very specific to VPN service providers, where we are saying that keep logs. The whole idea about VPN is that they do not keep logs. There are certain VPN providers who do not even keep logs to maintain high level of security and to give that global privacy to its users.
Okay.
So we are saying that this is being used by criminals and there are cyber incidents happening. So keep logs. And there are, I think globally, all law enforcement agencies, I think both the users, speakers would agree with me that VPN service providers across globe are obliged to assist with law enforcement when given the correct paperwork or search warrant or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
The same thing is happening in India, that we are asking them to keep logs and provide as and when necessary.
Okay, now that's very important point, last one which you made, Khusboo, and I'd like to bring both Mr. Gupta and Mr. Dhanda here. Mr. Gupta, I'll start with you here. You know, this aspect of certain VPN service providers protesting against these rules and then saying that we will not be able to implement them, most of them international players, citing technological reasons, saying that their software or their technology does not even have the logging aspect inbuilt there as well. One, is that true? Two, that is going to be in clear contravention of these rules.
Absolutely. That's where, the Honorable Minister of State said very clearly, either you comply with the things or you leave the country. When you talk about, the technology aspects which these VPN service providers are quoting over here, the major thing which they have quoted is that they have RAM-only servers. RAM-only servers are the servers where you don't have the traditional hard disk in place, where all the data is being overridden by, it's been recorded in RAM and has been overridden as and when the users are actually connecting to it. So that's something which the, certain of the VPN providers have quoted, that this is the place where we cannot even technologically make it enable and bring up the logs to the government authorities. So that's something which they have quoted. Second thing is, when you talk about can it be done, or the second sort of evasion which people or the service providers are using is that they are governed by the law in the country they are placed in, right? Certain of the VPN providers have said that we are based out of Netherlands, we are based out of the other countries, and that's the place where we will going to abide the law of, not of the Indian authorities. So
Okay.
that's something which are the two places where these people have come up with the logic or come up with an opinion. And certain of the VPNs have already left. Certain of the VPN providers are just waiting for the government, amendments, or maybe what's the next action being taken by the government till 27 June.
Okay. Mr. Dhanda, let's also understand it from users' perspective. Somebody like me who must have been or may have been using VPN, any consumer. The question here is, what will be the impact of these new rules on the consumer, on the end consumer?
Yeah. So Vishal, you may notice on the VPN, people, what they do, they need to see some content that is not allowed to your region. For example, OTT content. So they're not able to see that. If they go to any VPN provider and they ask for the KYC in the front, right? So it will be agitation for them. Like why they need to provide it tomorrow, it get tracked, right? If anything happen, anything goes wrong from their VPNs, or the agency can track their activities. So there is a mental block that will come to the user mind. Oh, I'm being tracked. Oh,
Okay.
my ID they having, right? So I strongly believe in the user privacy, but I'm sure along with what's fraud happening through the VPN, what wrong activity happening through the VPN, that is what the government doing these particular policies.
Okay, okay. Khusboo,
Yeah.
now this is a very important aspect. Walking that thin line between the issue of cybersecurity and data privacy or the privacy of internet consumers as well, and that is something which has always been debated. Now, in this particular case, vis-a-vis these new rules. How do you see things from both perspectives? Of course, from the cybersecurity perspective, it's important because the VPN, service is a double-edged sword, which both the experts from the industry have also pointed out earlier in the show. But so is the privacy part. So, how does it impact the user privacy here, or does it impact it at all?
Government is not asking a plugin that it is keep gonna monitor you. What it's asking is the VPN agencies or VPN service providers to work the way they are working. The only added feature you need to have is keep the logs for a minimum of 5 years, so that in case of any cyber incident or in case of any ransomware gang or in case of anything that is happening which is a criminal act, if that happens in that scenario, if we have been asked, we can ask you the details. You cannot at that time, you just don't stand, oh sorry, we are VPN service providers, sorry. If some, let's say some critical infrastructure of your country gets attacked and services used are via VPN, and that's where you link in, or via some other means, or way you understand that okay, this is by this VPN services. What do you do then? So yes, understand that government by this order is not asking as a plugin that it's going to monitor each and every activity of yours. No, only when there is an incident, only when there is a requirement, certain may require, or some other agency via new notifications may require certain details. So if you're doing a legal act over online, your privacy is very well saved. There is no infringement to your right to privacy. The only infringement comes is that in case there is a crime, and as it is for criminals, there is nothing called as right to privacy. When there is a criminal act, the law enforcement agencies have to work. The law has to be enforced. And at that time, you cannot say, oh, I have a right to privacy. You cannot. No, if there is a warrant, if there is a court order, if there is a requirement by the agency, yes, it's not just in India, it's across globe.
Okay.
So there is nothing new that we are asking. So there is no, please let's make it clear that with VPN, government is not monitoring you, government is not doing a sneak peek into your system. It's not sitting free to check in what are you browsing or what movie are you watching, which is not in India. You can very well do that now also. There's nothing illegal in that.
Okay, indeed, till the time you don't have anything to hide, which might cause you legal trouble, there's nothing to worry about. And that's a very important aspect, because that is why a clarification came in later from Certain as well, saying that these informations will be sought on a case-to-case basis in case of a cyber-security threat event. Now, that brings me to other aspects of these rules also. And, if I'm not wrong, Mr. Gupta, you're also into, a cloud service providing business. So these rules do not only apply to VPN service providers, they also apply to cloud service providers, the data centers as well. So is that all fine with this section of the industry? No issues with these new rules? Perfectly okay, can be complied with?
Yeah, so though we are into cybersecurity domain, so I would say that, specifically if you talk about either the VPS providers, or if you talk about data center providers where dedicated server is provided to a particular customer for hosting their applications, or in case of cloud service providers, they're absolutely fine, because the fundamentals of VPNs are the only ones which are getting, contradicted over here by certain of the VPN service providers who really want to ensure that their customers' privacies are maintained. While if you talk about cloud service providers, there have been instances where people take the instance on Amazon web server or maybe on Google Cloud server, and then they install a Windows OS over there, and then try to utilize it for opening certain of the websites or for accessing certain of the applications. And that's where maintaining a logs at that point in time, or that point of place, is something which is not trouble to any of these people.
Okay, clearly that is an important aspect there. Let's quickly, before we bring this discussion to an end, let's also quickly look at this aspect. And Mr. Dhanda, I'd like to bring you in here. Now, in our journey of, digital technology or usage of internet. Of course, it is growing leaps and bounds every day. We look at new aspects of usage of digital tech and usage of internet as well. So does our needs of putting in place a robust defensive system as well to tackle the cybersecurity threats. If you look at that journey for past decade or so, a lot of steps have been taken. As an entrepreneur from the industry, as an industry expert on this, what would you suggest in terms of putting right checks and balances in place?
I think this is very good step that government just taken, right? And like Karmesh said about cloud provider, I would like to add a point there. So there's one term that need to be clear: who need to take the logs, the data center, the cloud provider, or the person who manage that particular server who offering the VPN services, right? And to protect the user base, the internet users, like I said, the UPI transactions being increasing day by day. So I think this is very good step by the certain, and
Okay.
it's good. It's great for the internet and the internet users.
Okay. Khusboo, you've been keeping a close track of all the developments on these laws which are being put in place. We have had numerous discussions on various aspects of laws dealing with cybersecurity. The place where we stand today in terms of the technological advancements and in terms of cybersecurity laws, have we caught up with the technological advancements, or we need to do a bit of more homework here and be prepared for new frontiers?
Absolutely. You have touched the right point over there, that see, our data protection bill is yet in a build stage. It's yet not there. So the industry is yet to understand industry specific what level of security has to be kept by them. And in the absence of data protection bill, this seems to be slightly difficult for industry specific to understand, especially if we talk about payment gateways or banks have a certain level of security they have to keep. Yes, we do have ISO 27001, but we have to understand, in absence of data protection bill, this becomes slightly questionable thing, but nonetheless, this specific guideline sends a very strong message to the criminals using such services that the golden age of criminal VPNs is over. And together, I think, along with international agencies or partners, this message becomes loud and clear across the globe that golden age of criminal VPN is over.
Okay. Golden age of criminal VPN is over. That's perhaps the perfect sum up to the new rules which have been put in place, as both the other gentlemen from the industry are also agreeing to. And one clarification which all three of you made clearly, that it has no impact on the data privacy of individuals, of users therein. The government or the government agency certain is only going to step in when there is a cybersecurity threat. Thank you so much, Ms. Khusboo Jain, Mr. Manoj Dhanda, and Mr. Karmesh Gupta as well, for sharing your views and insight. As our experts were pointing out, time is here and now with us to go ahead and take steps to ensure that we are fully prepared for the cybersecurity threats. And that is why new rules, new norms are put in place to deal with technological advancements as well. And so are the new VPN rules. Clearly, they've been put in place with a clear objective, and that is to deal with the cybersecurity threats to our country, to critical infrastructure as well, and on a larger basis to the internet users also. Of course, it won't have, as the experts were pointing out, any impact on the privacy of individuals, and the government agencies will step in case of an adverse event only. We'll come back again. We'll keep a watch on all these developments, and we will be back with new topics as well. Till then, keep watching Sansad Television. Thank you.